Hello, and welcome to the Pet Travel Insider Podcast, a podcast produced by Starwood Pet Travel to help owners who are considering transporting their pets gain an understanding of the process, learn the ins and outs of the import rules for destinations across the globe, and hopefully gather some tips and tricks to make the process go smoother. On the Pet Travel Insider Podcast, we talk to experts, including pet transporters, government officials, and vets, all in order to give you the insight you need to approach pet travel with confidence. I'm today's host, Georgiana Strait, the marketing manager here at Starwood. On today's podcast, we are discussing life as an expat and what goes into moving around the world with pets. Today, we're sitting down with Carole of Expatability. Carole is an expat life mentor and consultant who is dedicated to supporting those relocating abroad as they navigate moving and living overseas and making their location-independent lifestyle a reality. All right, thank you everyone for joining. On today's show, we have Melton of Strategic Initiatives at Starwood Pet Travel and Carole Mobbs, an expat lifestyle mentor. So Carole, I'd love to start by you telling us a little bit about how you got into this field and your life as an expat in general.
How long have you got?
60 minutes.
How I got into this? Well, that requires a little bit of a history story. So, when my daughter was 5, we moved from the UK to Tokyo, Japan. And with 2 cats, because we're talking about pets as well.
Mm-hmm.
And after 5 years in Japan, we had another move due. Unfortunately, moving with a 5-year-old is very different from moving with a 10-year-old. And she was not coping well. And I couldn't find any way to help her, any way to support her problems. And then there was, on March the 11th, we had that earthquake, which was a month before we were due to leave and obviously caused so much trauma. And by that point, I'd got 1 cat, 1 dog, and the daughter. So the final month of trying to leave Japan and having all the flights cancelled, it was just a huge nightmare. And we ended up in Berlin, Germany with a good dose of PTSD, including the dog, who never really shook it off because you can't really explain to a dog. And then 2 years in Berlin, which was supposed to be 5 years, but my husband got a job offer in South Africa, so off we went. But while we were in Berlin recovering from everything, I thought, what can I do so that other people don't have to go through this? And where they can find generalised support regarding just moving overseas with children. And that's when I created my first website, expatchild.com. So that has now got hundreds of articles about all the different stages and all the different parts of moving overseas with children. And then so we moved to South Africa. And after South Africa, where I collected another 2 cats, lost the other boy, moved back to the UK in 2018. We're just about getting ourselves settled when this wonderful thing called COVID hit. And as you do, I decided to start a podcast, and that's where Expatability came into its own. And the word basically means, do you have the ability, the preparedness to make expat life the best that you can? So that's how Expatability came into being. And it just sort of rolls everything that I've learned and discovered over the years. And they both sort of come under the same umbrella, which is me. So yeah, I've done the moving with kids, I've done the moving with pets, I've done the working overseas, I've done the parenting over the seas, I've done the coming back after living overseas, which is actually the hardest move of all. So.
I can imagine. So I actually have a 13-year-old daughter who is actively taking Japanese language lessons right now because she has the aspiration to do a study abroad year. So how does language play into the role of moving abroad and making sure that you're prepared for life so it's not as big of a culture shock?
It makes a huge difference. While there are so many, something I call expat bubbles, so Dubai, Singapore, where they all stick together and don't learn the language, you get so much more out of life if you can at least ask directions and follow them when you get lost. Not if you get lost, when you get lost. But yeah, language will help in every way. But regardless of that, even if she doesn't get the study abroad, it's building different neurons in her brain. And then she will find other languages come so much easier. And Japanese is such a fun language. It's actually easier than you'd expect. And once you've got over the fact that the letters are wrong, it is
Yeah,
actually a lot easier to listen and speak once you get attuned.
yeah, yeah, absolutely. Yeah, she's learning kanji right now, which are some of the symbols in the Japanese language, and I'm, trying my best to learn the language as well. I speak French, but I would love to learn another language as well. So thank you for sharing that intro with us. Adam, I want to pass it to you, and just so you can share a bit about your background, and how you got started in this niche world of pet travel.
Yeah, as most of us, we grow up dreaming that we're going to become pet shippers as young children. No, just kidding. Had no idea that this even existed until an old friend reached out to me with a job opportunity, and that was about 10 years ago. And started at Starwood Pet Travel, and have done just about everything in the business. Started just doing sales and have worked in operations, and now overseeing marketing, sales, and technology at the company. So it's been the stories, the crazy stories, the wild stories, the things that sometimes people request or want to do, as far as transporting their pets. There's so many, and it's always a good fun conversation starter at a party when people ask what you do, and you're like, oh, I'm a pet shipper. They're like, oh, I didn't know that was a thing. And honestly, most people have no idea this is an industry until they need it, right? Until someone is looking, at moving overseas, and they're like, wait a second, what about my pets? I can't just bring my dog with me on the 15-hour flight to Australia, for instance. So how does that work? And then they find Starwood, and we provide that solution for them. So yeah, that's it in a nutshell, I guess.
Yeah. Yeah, it's a very interesting industry, something that, I'm fairly new to myself, but it is so needed. I feel especially in, today's modern age, especially post-COVID, people are moving all over the place with their pets. It seems
Mhm.
like people are having children, or their pets are their children. So it's
Yeah,
very much needed.
yeah.
And, Carol, I want to pass it back to you. So when people first come to you, where are they mentally? Are they dreaming? Are they planning? Do they have pets? What does their story look like?
Yes.
All of the above.
Exactly.
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
Generally, they come to me after they've finished and they are in dedicated dreaming. Is this possible? Can I do it? I ask that they don't come to me until they've found a visa, because I'm not legally allowed to deal with visas. So,
Mhm.
and then they want support and confidence that they're making the right decision, and also how to handle it with their children, with their pets. Obviously, I would then pass them on. Please, no, just do take the pets, but use
Yeah.
a pet shipper, for crying out loud. And so, yeah, they're usually in real planning stages. This is something that I want to happen, and I want it to happen before the children go to high school, or this, roughly that sort of area.
Hmm. Hmm. And what triggers someone to finally decide that they want to move abroad? We find that in our industry, it's largely tied to a job relocation or just, a dream to live elsewhere. But what sort of things have you seen directly?
Well, my personal experience is for job relocation. So that's how I
Hmm.
moved overseas. My husband got postings and I trailed after him as the trailing space. But what's triggering what I call a a self move, it's the search for a better life.
Mm.
And then you can go, what the hell is a better life? So the things that have been triggering it for the last couple of years, I will leave you to guess, but politics,
Mm-hmm.
certain politics, and cost of living. And those are basically what a better life comes down to. Safety, away from the horrendous government, both our countries. But cost of living is a kind of a thing that they think they're moving to, but they don't always do the math.
Mm-hmm.
There
Mm-hmm.
could be, food could be more expensive, utility bills could be more expensive. There may be limitations on where they're allowed to buy. So they think that they're going for a better life, everything will be rosy, the grass will definitely be greener, but it doesn't always work like that. So I like to bring them back. What is the big picture? And generally, 99% of the time, yeah, they will get a better life, but they need to be prepared for it.
Yeah.
To piggyback on that, I find a lot of clients reaching out to us are also, they're in the discovery phase of collecting all the costs to do the relocation. So maybe they're coming to you and they are trying to find somewhere that's cheaper to live. Cost of living is lower, but then they're in that discovery phase of like, okay, how much is it going to cost to get me to this place where the cost of living is lower? And I think that sometimes people underestimate the overall cost of relocation. Now you can do it for cheaper. You don't have to move your household goods with you. You don't have to move a car, maybe whatever. But there's certainly lots of things that go into it that are expensive, and pet shipping is not the cheapest part of the move by any means. There's lots that go into it, and I would say that people do, as they're planning this dream of lower cost of living, they do need to kind of get all their ducks in a row and figure out what the net cost is going to be to move overseas, with pet shipping being one of those elements, one of the most important elements, right? As
I
Georgie, you
agree.
were saying,
I agree.
the fur babies, right? The fur kids. So yeah.
I
Yeah.
agree. It
Yeah.
it is costly, but it's so worth it.
Yeah.
Yeah. I think it's that initial upfront cost, right? That kind of puts that sticker shock on people. Because I see posts on social media all the time. It costs me $1,000 a month to live in Vietnam or some other, Southeast Asian country. But really, you have to really prepare, mentally and financially to make the move happen.
Yeah.
And this question more generally, how far in advance should someone start planning? Like what Carol, does the timeline look like? And I know Adam can speak to how far in advance we should plan for certain countries you're moving to as far as pet shipping goes.
It can be any kind of timeline. We generally had a year ahead, but when we moved from Berlin to South Africa, we only had 2 months. Turns out I can do it all in 2 months. And you don't know until you've tried it. But I generally work on a year. I created a relocation planner and managed to chop it down. It's about 9 months. So I've then got sort of 3 months after, if that makes sense. But you can condense it to whatever timeline you've got. And generally, parents move during the summer holidays. So that's quite often a deadline that they like to stick to if they have a choice. And generally, even if it's a business move, if you're moving for a job, the jobs are flexible to start the kid at school on a new year. So, but yeah, you can do it in a couple of months.
I'll upvote Carol's one year recommendation, just from the pet shipping side of things. The sooner the better. There are some countries that you can't do it in 2 months. It's literally impossible because of the importing country's requirements for getting a pet prepared for arrival. Australia being one of those countries that requires a 6 month waiting period. You really have to start at 7 to 8 months before departure because there's some things that have to be done before that waiting period starts. And that 6 month waiting period is absolutely mandatory. Australian government won't let the pet arrive until 180 days or 6 months is completed. And then, of course, once the pet arrives, there's quarantine involved as well. But It really depends on where you're going. I would say, if you're a planner and you have Carol's checklist, that's looking, make sure you're considering your pets early on, especially like I said to Australia, but places like New Zealand, Singapore, South Africa, all have a little bit longer lead times because of some things that need to be done prior to departure. Could you get away with 2 months for most locations? Yes. If you're going US UK, US to Europe, or inter Europe, intra Europe, those are much quicker turnarounds. But I'll say, like, from a kind of customer experience perspective, the pet travel part of it is the most stressful. Second maybe to the kids, or maybe it's even more Okay, Carol, you can speak to it. You've done it, right? So pets, because right, you said at the beginning, Carol, you can't explain to your dog what's going on, right? And so the owner has this anxiety about it. Is my pet going to be okay? All this and that. And so, our recommendation is just as soon as you think you might, once you're kind of in that dedicated dreaming stage, as you put it, Carol, go ahead and start, engage with a pet travel company to start the ball rolling. It will net less stress on you and probably, by extension on your pet, to have everything in order early, and so that you get everything done and now you're just waiting for departure. Rushing is going to make you stressed, and in turn make your pet stressed. So yes, the yes to both of those things, right? Like, to get it going early, and as far out as possible. I think that a year is comfortable. 2 months is probably would be, for most destinations, that would be the absolute minimum when you should start planning it.
Yeah, the reason it worked okay for us moving from Berlin to South Africa, apart from the
Hmm.
extra things that South Africa needed,
Right.
was we'd always kept up to date with
Hmm.
the rabies jab, which is
Right.
the new one.
Right.
And we'd always kept up to date because we knew that something could happen, and this is what happened
Right.
in Japan.
Yeah.
A lot of people left very
Right.
quickly after the earthquake, and they left their pets behind.
Right.
That wasn't going to happen to us. So
Right.
you keep up if you know that you're moving,
Hmm.
keep up to date with all of the jabs and all of the paperwork. It did
Yep.
entail me having to rush across Berlin to a government vet at 6:30 in the morning, but it worked.
Many such stories. Yeah.
Yeah, and because you have to follow the rules.
Right.
There are
Right.
rules with a capital R.
Yes. Yeah, that's definitely important to underscore. People are kind of like, oh, well, is there any way to get around the like in the case of Australia, is there any way to get around the 6 month waiting period? Is there any way to get around quarantine in Singapore or wherever? And generally speaking, no. Like, these countries are protecting these are biosecurity rules to protect sensitive environments, agricultural endeavors in those countries, and one pet that hasn't followed the rules correctly, and is bringing some sort of invasive pest or species in with them, could cause multi-billion-dollar ramifications. So that's why the logic of this, sometimes people approach it and look at these rules, and they just get frustrated, like, oh, this is just a government, red tape, yada yada yada, bureaucracy. And it's like, yeah, it's frustrating, but at the end of the day, right? Like, this could cost a country severely, both financially and just wellness, general wellness. So yeah, just plan early, and be flexible too. If you have to run across Munich at 6:30 in the morning to do what you need to do, or Berlin, was it? Yeah, yeah, yeah. So just be flexible, and start planning early.
Yeah, yeah, absolutely. So, Carol, when you're meeting with people, especially those that have pets, what do they typically underestimate? Probably timelines. I'm sure you see some trends regarding specific countries people are moving to, but what's the first thing that comes to mind?
Basically, the stress that it puts on the humans.
Yeah.
Because you can't tell them. I have enough problem putting my cats into a cattery and my dog into a kennel. I have enough problem with that because you cannot explain what's going on. Even with a child, you can explain what's happening. And they have a concept eventually, when they get a
Hmm.
bit older, of you will be there for them. But you can't get that through to an animal. So
Yeah.
it's the stress on you, and oh, my baby's And that is quite often underestimated.
I
Excuse me. But
I'm having oh,
the,
sorry,
the,
go
it,
ahead.
it's the timings. Um, I had to have sheets and sheets of paper. This is why I invented my planner. On this day, they've got to have this vaccination. On that day, they've got to have that vaccination. And it was one day before they fly, they have to have this tablet. And if you get it wrong, that's it. You had to basically start over. So
Yeah, and it's that times 10 if you go to Australia, where you have, sometimes 5 or 6 preliminary vet visits and all sorts of internal external treatments. And as you said, if you miss one or do it the wrong date, or use the wrong manufacturer of internal external treatment, for instance, you have to start all over. And with a 6 month waiting period, the stakes are extremely high. And I think that's why, in part, why Starwood put together our pet travel portal for customers. It's the planner, but for the pet part of the move, right? Where
fantastic.
clients log in and see their entire vet timeline, the date that they need to schedule it for, what exactly needs to happen at each of those appointments, the documents that they need to bring, and just kind of break it down appointment by appointment to keep them on track and avoid a costly and timely delay.
Yeah, that is an absolute genius move. But frankly, it just takes a layer of pressure off the humans.
Right.
It's fantastic.
And therefore the pet, right? Because I can't stress that enough. I think that the stress, because like as you say, you can't explain it to the pet, like, why is there all this commotion? Why are you can't conceptually discuss with a dog what's going on. And so I think from our perspective, our user, when we think about like tools and whatnot for the owners, it's partially for that, right? Let's reduce the stress of this, at least this one element of their relocation, so therefore the stress of the pet can be reduced as much as possible, since you can't conceptually discuss it with them. So
Yeah, and I think anyone that's got a pet knows how psychic they are when you think about taking them to the vet. That's the point that they will disappear.
yeah.
We know that they pick up on our stress about things.
Yeah.
One of the things that I sort of learned is to start crate training as early as you can. Once you know that it's happening, get the crate. And maybe we'll talk about crates later, but make sure it's the right crate. But,
Are you speaking from experience? Did you have trouble with one?
not personal experience, but
Okay. Yeah.
a
Yeah.
sudden story.
Yeah.
Thought that they bought the right crate according to the pet shop, according to Amazon,
Hmm.
and they get to the airport and the airline said, no, it's too small.
Yeah. Many such stories, clients rushing to us saying, "Hey, I got rejected at the airport today. Can you help?" People that hadn't engaged us before, but are trying to do recovery because of that very issue. And maybe they got everything else correct, but then that last piece, that the travel kennel, the crate, was wrong size or style. So yeah, that's
Yeah, because different airlines have different rules.
okay. Yeah. Right. Yeah.
I've seen crates on Amazon and in the local pet shop that a cat can get their paw through.
Right.
That's not allowed.
Right.
You know.
And unfortunately, some manufacturers will say airline
Oh, airline
approved or
friendly.
airline kennel, yeah, but not so. You can't trust that. The IATA, which is kind of like the governing body for all international airlines, they have very specific rules and regulations. They put out this live animal regulation document. It's like the Bible of pet travel, basically. This big old document that goes over everything. As Carole, you're saying, like, the grate sizes on the doors of the kennels are dictated by this LAR document, this live animal regulation document, that the airlines, if they want to be compliant with IATA, they have to follow. And if some people can also get frustrated with that sort of like, oh, it's more than a millimeter by a millimeter, and the airline's rejecting me. That's ridiculous. Like, my pet's gonna be fine. But first of all, got pet welfare, right? There's rules in place for a reason. If the pet does accidentally get their paw stuck in that, it could be it can be really dangerous. And so it's firstly in place for welfare, but also the airlines and even pet shippers, if they don't follow by these things, can be fined severely for because it's a breach of animal welfare. So ultimately, it's all in place for the safety of the pet traveling. And so I know people can be frustrated by what they deem to be kind of the scrupulosity of even like of a pet shipper like Starwood. When we see a picture of the client's crate that they purchased on their own, and we have to say, sorry, that's not going to do. You have to buy an all new one because of XYZ. They can be frustrated, but yeah, it's just important to note that the airlines, it's not really an internal airline policy. They're responsive to a higher authority, the IATA group, on that, and so they can't really skirt it. And certainly we shouldn't want to skirt those things because ultimately it's about animal welfare.
Yeah, it's about our pets and their safety and the safety of everybody else that's around.
Right.
But
Yeah.
get them used to the crate, so that's not a
Absolutely.
huge shock to them.
Yeah.
And that is one of the best preparation things I think that you can do as an owner. Just before it all happens, make the crate a lovely, fun place to live, and it does make things a lot easier because it is the stress on us that will then reflect on the pet, and then it just becomes a huge vicious circle we don't like.
Lots of giving lots of treats while they're getting used to their crate, right?
Yeah,
Positive associations. Yeah.
yeah.
Yeah. Apart from the crate training prior to travel, a lot of complaints, or I mean, not necessarily complaints, but pain points that we see is like, oh, my pet has to travel in cargo, due to certain airline regulations. I'm sure that's something you hear, Carole. Adam, can you speak a bit to, why that's necessary in pet travel in certain scenarios?
Yeah, yes. So again, going back to what I mentioned before, biosecurity, that's the main one. In a lot of cases, it's not even the airlines dictating, hey, the pet can't fly in cabin, it has to fly via cargo. It's not necessarily an internal airline policy, but the country of importation is putting that rule in place because they need to be able to control the flow of how the pets are arriving in the country. And so if they have pets arriving in cabin as excess baggage through manifest cargo, all these different modes, it's too much for them to manage to ensure biosecurity. And so a country like even like the UK, for instance, they say every pet needs to arrive via manifest cargo. Unless there are some exceptions for true service animals, of course, but for 99% of pets, it has to be through manifest cargo, just so they can control the biosecurity and import process, and they're not having to go to Terminal 6 to get pets and going through customs there, but it all just goes through the cargo side. So that's the number one reason. And on the other hand, airlines also do have internal policies that even if an importing country says, sure, they can arrive in cabin, most airlines have a 20-pound maximum weight for in-cabin flying. The pet also has to fit in a soft carrier in front of them. So, and people ask about that if they do have smaller pets and the country allows it. From our perspective, it's actually probably more stressful because of the fact that you're not allowed to pull the pet out of that soft carrier in cabin when you're traveling, and the soft carrier is pretty tight. Right, it has to be able to fit under the seat in front of you, and so if you're right at that like top high end, the 20 pounds, there's not a lot of room to move around. Whereas with the going, Carole, to your point about the kennel regulations, airlines have very strict requirements on sizing of kennels, such that the pet can stand up fully, turn around fully, sit down and on hind ends and not hit the top of the kennel, and so it's very spacious, that is to say. I know sometimes cat owners, the kennel that almost every airline requires for cats. Once the cat owner gets that and the cat goes in it, they're like, "Oh my goodness, this is massive! Like this is like way too big." And yeah, it's big for a cat, but that is for most airlines that is the minimum size. So I think. Obviously, there are pros and cons if you can do the in cabin, and your pet is, not a very anxious pet. Maybe that is the best play. But I will say to kind of give an upvote for in cargo, they generally speaking they have a lot more space in the hard kennels that they travel in via cargo, and ultimately people are concerned because. They can't see their pet. They don't know the conditions that their pet is going to be in cargo. But the cargo compartments, at least where pets are flying, are temperature controlled and pressurized, so they are effectively in the same conditions as the passengers up above or in. They are not just amongst the baggage; they're typically separated from the baggage. They are strapped down very securely. I've actually crawled up in the belly of a 737 at the Melbourne airport in Australia and seen how they load the pets. And as I said, they're separated from, via cargo nets from the rest of the baggage, and they are strapped down very securely. So it is with the securing of the kennels plus the temperature controlled and pressurization, there's really nothing to worry about environmentally. I think the biggest stress is just that the pet owner can't physically see the pet, and so there's that degree of unknowing and anxiety that might come with that. But Carole, I would love to hear, since you've been on the receiving end of pets traveling. I mean, successful relocations, I presume.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah.
I've been on hundreds of flights in my life. I have never seen an animal on any cabin.
Yeah.
But
Yeah.
that may be to do with usually coming away from the UK and so on.
Right. Right.
So my dog with PTSD from the earthquake, she
Mm,
was an anxious nightmare. Thunderstorms,
mm,
a bat making a squeak 5 miles away could send her off. When we moved back to the UK, she was 10, and it was going to be a nightmare. I have never seen her so happy. It was absolute madness, and
yeah.
she was fine, absolutely fine.
Yeah.
And I think she just sort of thought, "Oh God, this again." And I know they'll be there when I get back, and
Right.
just you know. And animals do tend to sleep. Cats,
Hmm.
they sort of shut down. They don't do anxiety the way that we do anxiety, and they sleep. They sleep it off. So, your cat, your dog would probably have spent most of the flight fast asleep, snoring away.
Hmm.
Had a bit of puzzlement when they landed and woke up, and then they have a drink of water, and okay, we'll see what happens. Because animals live in the moment. They don't look ahead.
Hmm.
I truly believe that they have memories and can look back, but they tend to live in the moment, and it's our stress and us turning, what's the word, anthropomorphizing animals.
Yeah. Yeah, I think that's right. A lot of it does come down to the more of the stress or anxiety is on the owners, which is totally understandable. It's not like a slight to them because in a lot of cases they've never done it before. But we part of why I think Georgie, you would agree with this. Part of why we love working in this industry is that you're talking about Carole, the moment when the pet sees their owner on the other side of the move. I have never seen a single relocation photo or video where the pet is not absolutely, just so enthusiastic, so happy, tails wagging, so happy to see their owner. I've never seen one where the pet is just like, blank, traumatized look in their face, not wanting to go up to their owner. No, they're running to the owner, they're excited, they're licking, they're jumping all around, and so they're living in the moment, and that's a great moment for them. And yeah, that's one of the best parts of working in this industry, seeing those reunited photos and videos.
Yeah. I would say a cat might react a bit differently. Mine might act kind of aloof, pretend that they don't know me, but then eventually walk over. But Yeah.
they're too cool to show excitement. They're like, teenagers.
Yeah.
They don't want to show their cards.
Exactly.
Yeah, my dog
Exactly.
was like that. My dog wasn't a bouncy dog. She was a Shiba Inu, which are known
Mm,
cat-like. So
mm,
we didn't get the reunition, reunification.
yeah,
And the
yeah.
cats may go clingy. They may go and hide for a little while,
Hmm.
and you just know your own animal and let them get on with it. That's the key point. Do not
Yeah.
force them.
Hmm.
And don't screech at them. God, people screech.
Yeah.
Well said.
Carol, during your relocation adventure, did your dog come with you from UK to Japan to South Africa and back to UK?
No, we got her in Japan. She's the Japanese national dog. So we got her as a puppy in Japan when we thought we were moving back to the UK, and then things changed a lot in the last year. So
Yeah.
she went from Japan to Germany, Germany to South Africa, South Africa to the UK, and I
Wow.
sadly lost her a year ago, so of old
I'm
age.
so sorry. I'm so sorry to hear that. But I think it speaks to the resilience of both pets and humans alike that you can travel all over and, make it work for you. So, I mean, after settling into a new place, what does the next 90 days look like? What are some of the first things that you really need to focus on after you're in a new area?
Well, I think the actual arrival is key to get right. And again, that's knowing knowing the animal world as well as knowing your own pets. So the move when I had two cats and the dog. So let's come back to the UK, coming back to the UK. The dog and the cats had a tolerating relationship. They didn't all cuddle up together. I knew that I needed to be a bit careful with the dog because she's a prey-driven creature. And so you work out the hierarchy, you know the hierarchy, and you let the lowest cat out first. And you do it all fairly quickly, but it was sort of one, two, okay, they're all right, let the dog out. And that gives them all chance to rediscover the hierarchy with a bit more levelling out. It's hard to explain, but if you've got one cat, obviously it doesn't matter. You make sure that you let them out by the litter tray, by the water. The chances are they won't have food, because I should imagine they feel a bit airsick by then. And before all that happens, you make sure that you have pet-proofed your home, your new home. We arrived in Berlin at 2 o'clock in the morning. The dog arrived the next day. But we'd found out that the fence was only a foot high. Huge garden, a foot high fence. So we couldn't let her out into the garden unless she was on a lead until we'd had the whole fence replaced. That was an unexpected cost. So you pet-proof the place. You don't let the cats out. See, this is something that's quite different in the UK and Europe, is our cats tend to go outside, which I know is quite alien to many countries and especially America. But we don't have coyotes, so it's not, we do have roads, sadly. But so you don't let the cats out for at least 2 weeks, preferably 4 if you can cope. And you make sure that your dog is always on a lead because you don't know what's going to happen. Keita had never seen a dog bigger than a chihuahua until we moved to Berlin. And we walked around a corner and she met 2 Irish wolfhounds.
Oh,
My daughter was with
oh wow.
just don't know. You just got to get used and don't assume that your dog will always come on recall because they always did. It's a lot of life is about making assumptions.
Yeah.
That's really valuable insight. like I said, I've done this job for 10 years, and I used to work directly with clients early on. And, our expertise was generally speaking up until the end of travel. But some of the tips that you just shared is as far as getting them used to their new surroundings. I've never once expressed that to any of the clients I've talked to. So this is definitely some valuable content for people preparing, because yeah, once the move ends, once the pet's at the new house, then what, right? Like how to, and so yeah, that's some great tips for
The
people.
other really important tip I would love to shove in here is food.
Mm.
The food that your pet may be used to may not be available anywhere else.
Yeah.
I found it really hard to get good quality pet food, cat food, in South Africa because cats aren't pets.
Mm. Yeah.
The dog was all right. She was always on raw, so as long as I could find human food, I could find food for her.
Mhm.
But the cats were a little different. And in Japan, the only food that was available for cats was always fish.
Mhm.
People say, "Oh, take it with you," but really,
So be a lot.
yeah. No, you've got to do something about the food. Either find out if it's available or transition your animal onto something different, and
Hmm.
hope for the best. So, if you've got a fussy one,
Hmm.
God,
Yeah, that's huge. I have an elder cat, and we just started him on a fresh food diet. The food's delivered to our house on a monthly basis. It's ground to his preference, and we have different fishes and birds and all sorts of different animals ground into it. So he's picky, and that's really something to consider. If we were to move elsewhere, we'd need to make sure he has the texture and the protein that he likes. So that's
yeah,
huge. It can mess with your
it's like having
guts.
a picky toddler. It really is.
Yeah, yeah, it really is. What about on the human end of things? What are some of the biggest things that you need to focus on as you're settling into your home? I mean, I'm sure you have a home upon arrival, but there's so many unknown things that you probably don't even consider before you're there.
Yeah, that would be a whole other series of podcasts, frankly. So that's what Expatability chat's all about. But it's mainly expectations and truly knowing and having an open mind about a new country and the new rules. And it's a lot of it's the unspoken rules, the cultural rules that you don't know about until you arrive and until you've landed and lived there for a little while. And it's just a case of being respectful and being open to learn the new way of life. I mean, there are too many countries in the world I couldn't really explain, but one that's always stuck out for me, and I'm afraid this is all about Americans, I'm sorry. Absolute expectation that you will be able to find Thanksgiving turkey wherever you are in the world, and cranberries. Because it's only America that has Thanksgiving. Every other country,
Uh, yeah.
just little things like that. And I've heard huge rows in supermarkets. It's Thanksgiving, of course you've got it. Halloween in Africa, they hated it. Devil
Mm.
worshipped it.
Hmm.
No Christmas in Japan because it's not a Christian country.
Mm.
So it's little things, just needing to know.
I'm curious, Carol. We've had our fair share of clients who have moved over with kind of the dreams of a new life and better life, and then 6 months later came back and said we want to return home because it wasn't as we expected. And some of that's what you're getting at, being flexible and kind of understanding the cultural differences. But do you find that people that you're working with have they been to the countries that they're wanting to relocate and spent a significant amount of time? Is there correlation between like successful, permanent relocations if they've spent more time just visiting before doing the move, or what do you see with that sort of?
Well, that's actually very interesting because I moved to countries without being there ever
Oh,
visiting,
okay.
because
Huh.
that's the way our life happened to be.
Yeah.
And
Yeah.
I'm open-minded and well-travelled enough for that to happen.
Yeah.
Then you have the people who go on holiday somewhere for a couple of weeks and decide that they're going to move. And this is actually an example where I'll have to be a bit careful. They wanted to move from their country to their favourite holiday resort, or where the country where their favourite holiday resort was. But to get a job, they had to be in the city, not the beach. And when you go to a holiday resort, they tend to all speak English. They don't in the city, and they couldn't learn the language. It was a tricky language. The children didn't like the food. They needed to speak the language at the school, and they thought that just dropping them into a local school would make them learn the language overnight or something. Yeah, 6 months they lasted, went back. Huge trauma. There's a huge trauma involved in that, you know. And apart from that, because they moved with their job, there was a whole career disaster.
Digression, yeah.
It's basically being open-minded. I mean, there are countries in the world I wouldn't move to because I've travelled there and I don't like them. And countries that I would love to move to, but it wouldn't work at my stage of life, or, you know, I'd love to go and live in the Amazon jungle. But that's really not that practical. I can take the cats. So you have to be realistic. It's all very well having a dream, and you can make dream a reality by just sort of flipping the switch a little bit and looking into it properly.
So pre-visiting can be helpful, but certainly not a necessity.
No. But as long as you've got the right mindset, you can live there. I would prefer people went and visited at least, and you know, have a look around.
Yeah.
It's just having Holland's got a great new visa at the moment. It's got the great name of DAFT, D-A-F-T. So a lot of Americans are now moving to the Netherlands. Some of them don't go. It's not a very big country, and it's an unusual country. It's a wonderful country.
A lot of bicycles, that's for sure.
Exactly. I said you're going to.
And tulips.
And cold.
Yeah.
It is quite cold. I traveled to France and then Amsterdam last summer, just took a train up. And, you know, starting in France in June, it was so warm. By the time we got off the train and all of the canals in Amsterdam, I was freezing cold. So
Yeah, the water puts off cold. It's I've been there in I think it was about October up in the north of Holland. Oh, it is bleak. It was so windy.
yeah.
So check your weather before you move too, right? Make sure, see if you need to get a sweater for your dog or not.
That's the other thing. A friend of mine had an African dog she rescued from the gutters in Nigeria. She ended up in Russia in the middle of winter.
Well,
Rude awakening for that African
And
dog.
she didn't like wearing coats. But my dog was very fluffy, so she found it very hard in Africa. Absolutely loved the snow in Berlin. She was definitely a cold weather dog. Very fluffy. That's
I'd
something
love to
else
see a
to
picture of her in her sweater if you have one.
No, not in a sweater. She wouldn't even wear a collar, let alone anything else. Yeah, she's the Doge dog, the Shiba Inu.
The meme, yeah.
It's do miss her. Oh.
Are there any trends you're seeing right now with where most of your clients are moving to?
I know where they're moving from. America.
Yeah, we've seen that trend too. We can
Yeah,
confirm.
it's
Rocketed, weirdly. Not weirdly at all. Yeah, that's rocketed. No, there is no trend to moving to. The visas change so much. For a while, everyone was going to Portugal, but I think Portugal have put a cap on that now, so I guess they'll be trying to find somewhere else. France is another big favourite, but people don't realise you really need to speak French. From the UK, there's a never-ending love for Australia, and I don't know quite why that is.
It's because there's sunshine there, Carole.
Yeah, there's sunshine here. We don't have 45 degrees summers and constant fires. And But I think it might be the language. I think it's,
Hmm.
you know, they speak English, it's easier. But no, there are no real travel trends at all. I did have somebody, I do sometimes get people contacting me because they want to move somewhere but they don't know where. And that is great fun. So I've got a
Oh,
map
that
here
is
that you can't
fun.
see, and I go around the world. And what about this one? No. And I've got some rather special ways of working out where somebody would be best to move. And a lot of people are trying to find, I think they call them ancestral visas. So if
Yeah.
your great great grandmother was born in this country, you might be able to get to that country or something. So there are some odd ones there, you know, because great great granny came from Albania. Do you really want to move there?
I looked into that for Italy because my
No.
mother's side comes from Italy, and yeah, it's possible.
If
There are some exceptions though that prevented me in my case from getting them, but yeah, that is definitely a unique way of going about it that people probably don't think about as like the first on ramp into a country. But yeah, that's if I guess if your ancestors came from a desirable country like Italy or something, or Portugal, maybe that is something to look into.
Yeah, but just keep checking because the rules change all the time. But yeah, highly recommend Italy to anybody. Love Italy so much.
Yeah, I can imagine. Before we wrap up, Carole, how does someone, get in contact with you? Where do they find your checklist? If they want to move forward with their move?
Okay, either expatchild.com or expatability.net or search for my name. I'm everywhere. Um, the relocation planner, ultimate relocation planner, is either on Expat Child or guess where? Amazon.
Ah,
And that just takes you through the chronological getting ready to go so that you don't forget everything. And yeah, I'm just around everywhere. They can find me somehow. No, there's no hiding for me.
Yeah. And we'll definitely make sure to share the links to all of that so any listeners can download those resources. And Adam, from your end, how do you
yeah.
get started with pet travel at Starwood if
Yeah.
you do that?
Yeah, I mean, so startwithpet.com, visit our site. You can easily get a quote. In a lot of cases, you can get that quote within 5 minutes of requesting it from our site automatically. So you can kind of get understanding of what that upfront cost is for your relocation. Starwood does offer different tiers of service that hopefully can fit different budgets. We have kind of the most basic one all the way up to a sort of like white glove, full end to end. Don't worry about anything. Which is definitely appealing to folks who have maybe a little bit a larger relocation budget, but who have 2 dozen other things from Carol's checklist that they're trying to sort out, and they don't want to have to mess with the pets, and maybe they're very risk averse. They don't want to try to do anything on their own and make a mistake and delay it, so they go with our premium package and we do everything for them. So yeah, just go check out our website. We do have a nice new tool where people can get average costs just on our website without even having to request a quote. So you can kind of get at least directional pricing based on the amount of pets you have. There's lots of variables that go into that. So just use that initially as, again, as I said, directional pricing, but then request a quote and we can get you a proposal, full pricing for our different tiers of service, various add-ons that can make the move easier. And then of course, one of our sales reps will be in touch with you to walk you through your specific situation, talk about logistics. Most clients are, number one, worried about pet safety, which we've done some work to dispel some of that in this conversation, but the sales reps can talk you through more specifically about pet safety during travel. And then secondly, the questions that come up are around logistics, like how do I schedule my own trip relative to my pet's trip? Do the pets fly on the same flight as me? Do they need to travel before or after me? How do I sign up for pet travel services when I don't know if I have a visa yet, or when should I sign up? All those those questions the sales rep can answer for you. So those are kind of the two main places that people have questions that we can walk you through. But that's effectively how you get started. And like I said at the beginning of the conversation, start early. Don't delay. It's never too early to start that discovery phase, especially with this part of your relocation. Some other things you can maybe put off and do closer to departure, but for pets, generally speaking, do that early, and just get the ball rolling early.
And can I
And the
just say, please use a pet relocation company.
Oh, of course. Yeah.
And
Starwood Pet
I'm not
Travel,
paid to
preferably.
say, I'm not paid to say that at all.
Yeah.
It
Yeah.
takes so much pressure off yourself. It gives you peace of mind. I've heard of pets being refused because paperwork was written in the wrong colour ink.
Absolutely. Yeah.
We had a problem at 4 o'clock in the morning when our pets arrived back in the UK. Well, I was fast asleep. Our pet relocation agent dealt with it
Yeah.
and just delivered the pets to our door.
Right.
And the relief is immense. And if you see the pile of rules and bureaucracy for all the different countries,
Yep.
especially coming to the UK or Australia,
Hmm.
use a pet relo agent.
Yeah. Yeah.
Promise it's worth it.
People will often remark like, "Oh, I can move my pet cheaper myself," and it's like, yeah, you can also build your house for cheaper. But there's a lot of different people and subcontractors that come into it. Are you really going to want to manage all that? And are you risk averse enough to do that or not? So yeah, absolutely.
especially on top of everything else.
Yeah.
You don't want to have to worry about that, plus, finding schooling, housing, getting your visa in order. So
Yeah.
the less items on your own list, the less stressful it is.
Yeah.
So,
Yeah, peace of mind every step of the way.
okay. Well, Adam and Carole, thank you so much for joining the podcast today. It was such a pleasure speaking with you both, and we hope to have you on again soon.
Thank you.
Thank you for
Thank
letting me
you.
talk about pets.
Cheers.
Cheers.
Thank you to our viewers and listeners for joining us today. If you're planning a move abroad with a pet, please feel free to visit our website where we have a ton of free resources and where you can also easily request a quote for our services. If you need assistance and services beyond just your pet, as you heard, be sure to reach out to Carole Hobbs of expatability.net. Please also be sure to subscribe to our channel so you can stay up to date on all the podcasts we have coming. Until next time, I'm Georgiana Strait for the Pet Travel Insider Podcast. Thanks for listening and safe travels to you and your furry friends.